Hello, Flickin' Fanatics. What's going on this marvelous Saturday morning? Today is our Batman Day. We're going to be talking about Batman, and more Batman, the upcoming movie, the legacy he's left behind, and all the things that we enjoy about Bruce Wayne. Oops, did I spoil that? We're going to get into that in just a moment, right after this.
Yours is warm.
Once again, we have to give a big shout out to Mr. Sean Wingblade for designing that awesome intro. Thank you, sir, very much. And I am, of course, myself being Jesse Swift, I am joined by the one, the only Scott Fox for news and views.
Yes, sir. And man, and every time I see that intro, I just think, man, we got really lucky meeting a lot of very talented people. Because I had an alert on a memory today on Facebook of us doing the review of episode 8 of WandaVision, and just thinking of over a year ago when we were really investing weekly time into this thing and the difference that a year has made.
I wish it told us how many subscribers we had at that point, because guys, we are getting dangerously close to 250 subscribers, which is awesome. Just 8 more. Please do us a favor. And I'm sure you guys have already thumbed up the video because you're good at that. But share the video so that we can get some more subs and hit 250 before Batman comes out.
Yes. If we went back and listened to that video, we gave basically an update. It was probably 30 subscribers. And then you had your big extravaganza pre-wedding where you cranked us up and we got over 100, and then seemingly in a flash, we made ourselves all the way up over 200. But it's the fact that we're close to 250 is incredible. So
awesome. It's awesome. Thank you so much, everybody that's been supporting the channel. You guys mean the absolute world to us. So just in case we have some new viewers watching the show today, welcome to News and Views on the Flickin' Real Fancast. We are your source for news, reviews, and daily discourse. Whether you are watching us on YouTube or listening to the podcast on any of your favorite podcast apps, all those links are listed down below, by the way. We are happy you are joining us today, and we can't wait to share our thoughts with you. Thank you for always supporting us. You are the reason we keep doing this every week. And before we get going, we want to remind those of you watching, whether live or on replay, too much carbonation. I'm about to burp like every 3 seconds. Please take a moment to subscribe to the channel here and also on Twitch, which is Swift Wings, I believe. The link is also in the description. And make sure that you don't miss any of our news breakdowns, late night ramblings, which we just did last night. A lot of fun. Me and Allison Salamoni and Brandon Buckingham. Thumbs up the video. You are our greatest weapon against the brutal YouTube algorithm. Let's get to 300 subs by my birthday. That's May 3rd. Just right in the corner. Very doable.
It's coming quick.
Yep. Scott, thank you so much for the free advertising and reminder that we do have merch on TeePublic. Right now, it's just this design, but if we start selling some shirts, maybe we will get some more options up there. We would love the support. Thank you guys very much. Scott, did you prepare some trivia today? Because I figured when we're talking Batman, we would have some trivia to discuss.
So a friend of mine who loves me knows that I'm a Batman fan and got me the unofficial Batman trivia guide. And it clearly states out here, this book is unofficial and unauthorized, but there's a whole chapter based around film, TV, and video games.
Wow.
So I'm going to give you 3 questions out of here.
I got 3 for you as well.
For fun. So in Batman Begins, Bruce Wayne sprays his suit with black latex paint. Why? And it's multiple choice. I can give you 4 options if you need them.
Oh my gosh. Latex paint. I watched this very recently. I think I could pull with multiple choice. Let's try that.
Okay. He needs it to be darker. This is A. He needs it to be darker in order to seem more like a living shadow. He wants to make the suit, his suit's weak points less obvious by painting over them. Latex paint hides heat, making Batman invisible to infrared detection, and it helps his suit's insulation. This is D. It helps his suit's insulation so he won't get so cold from the high winds one would encounter while gliding from skyscrapers.
Oh, those are all very well thought out. The first one was the living shadow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go with that. Hey.
It's actually to hide heat, making
Really?
Batman invisible to infrared detection, according to this book. And I'm fairly sure that's accurate. He wants to make sure Jeff Alterman can't see him so he can avoid listening to him ramble. Wow, Mike Deacon not pulling any punches early this morning.
Should we alternate? Do you want to go back and forth?
I'm gonna do all my three.
Okay.
In Lego Batman, the video game, or sorry, that's the video game. Well, I'm gonna do that anyways. What actually does Clayface enjoy while imprisoned at Arkham Asylum?
I don't know. Shakespeare?
Pottery.
That's so dumb. I love
it. Sorry. When he was offered the role of Batman, actor Val Kilmer was literally standing in a bat cave in Africa, having gone there to research a role for the film The Ghost in the Darkness. True or false?
I almost feel like it's so obscure it has to be true.
It is true.
Wow.
Yeah. To be offered the role of Batman while standing in an actual bat cave in Africa. Impressive.
It is impressive. Where were you, Pattinson? Just jokes.
Boy,
jokes.
What a mighty fine question.
Okay. You ready?
All right, I'm ready. I could read trivia out of that all day long. Because it's I should lend this to you because this goes deep into the comic book catalog as well. Deep. Absolutely. And into all the animated movies.
Well, mine are all film based.
Okay.
So your first question, and this one's not too bad. Okay. Including The Batman coming out for me in 3 days, you in 4 days, which we'll talk about in a minute. Okay, so including The Batman, name the 3 actors to portray the Riddler cinematically.
Oh my gosh. And
and if anyone can
no. Okay, so chat. Jim Carrey, obviously. Why am I'm forgetting the guy from 1960s. Oh my gosh. I know this. And
would you like to use repeat the question?
No. I know the question. It's so there's a guy in the 1966 Batman movie, and then there's a guy in the Batman which is coming out in 4 days for me, 3 days for you. And I'm going to punch myself for that. But Jim Carrey is the one that's coming to my brain. I'm blanking the other two. Oh, that's so sad.
Great work. We're looking for Frank Gorshin in 1966. And then Paul Dano is the Riddler.
Paul Dano. Frank Gorshin went on to have a long and illustrious theater career after Batman. Random trivia for you.
Question number 2. And again, if you guys know in the chat, please let us know.
Oh, yeah, let me turn off the private or to go to private.
Who voices Alfred Pennyworth in the Lego Batman movie? Hands off the keyboard.
No, my hands are up.
I'm kidding.
I can hear his voice.
He was very prominent in the Harry Potter franchise. Gonna need an answer in.
Gary Oldman. I know that's wrong.
Ray Fiennes.
Oh my gosh! Really?
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna listen to that. I'm gonna watch that movie and listen to it completely different. Wait a minute. Then who did Voldemort in that movie?
That was the irony of it. I forgot who did it, but We were laughing about that. It's like Ray Fiennes is right there.
It would have been too spot on to have him do it. They had to do a caricature of
Yeah.
him in order to make it more animated.
All right. This, and I hate to say it, this is the hardest question, I think. Can you name the 3 actors to have voiced the Batman cinematically?
Kevin Conroy.
Yep.
Michael Keaton, and I don't know.
Michael Keaton did not voice him.
Oh, no, stop.
Okay. You got one more?
Will Arnett.
That's
Will
2.
Arnett.
Yep.
And Kevin Conroy.
Uh-huh.
I don't know the third one. What is it, Batman Beyond he had to slip in there?
Beyond never made it to cinemas.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
And if it did, it would be Kevin Conroy still technically. Unless we're talking Terry McGinnis. But for Bruce Wayne. Anyways, he had, I believe, 2 lines of dialogue in Teen Titans Go to the Movies, and it's Jimmy Kimmel as Batman. Scott's angry.
Let me just say, I'm okay with not knowing that. I'm disappointed because I wish I would have gotten any of those 3 questions completely correct, other than just bits of them. But I'm okay with not knowing that Jimmy Kimmel voiced Batman in the movie.
I'll give you 1 point for just eclectic knowledge.
Oh man,
I
can't believe I almost looked past Will Arnett. His Batman animated Batman voice is so good.
Okay, so based on the order of things that we have going on today, the first thing we want to talk about is we are seeing, after delays, more time allowed for script, a trailer that dropped what feels like a year ago. Finally, in 3 to 4 days, we are seeing The Batman, directed by Matt Reeves, starring Robert Pattinson, Paul Dano, Colin Farrell, Zoe Kravitz, Andy Serkis. What a cast. Cannot wait. Oh, Jeffrey Wright. How are
it's absolutely loaded.
It's right there. Oh, composed by Michael Giacchino, whose entire score is now available on Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you listen to music to. I've already listened to it 3 or 4
Again,
times.
I'm avoiding because I don't want to have a pre-built expectation of the heightening moments in the music, which means that I'll be thinking of where the peak moment of the scene will be. I want that to all be fresh. So I'm trying to avoid as much as I can, which is why I'm also glad, other than you, I'm seeing it earlier than anyone I know.
Yes.
And I almost got the tickets to the same one you're seeing, but I decided to wait a day and take my kids with me. So myself and my 2 oldest boys going on Wednesday.
And for anyone that doesn't know, I will be doing a quick thoughts right out of the theater shortly after getting home. Be about a minute long. Have that up here for you. And then I'm planning on filming a 5 to 10 minute spoiler-free review that same night. Thursday, after Sean has seen it, Scott has seen it, and I have seen it a second time, we'll be doing a spoiler review Thursday night. So if you guys are all seeing it that night, please join us for that. Hello, Bador. Welcome to our morning show. Man, Bador is just all over the place. She joins us for the Speakeasy and also for news and views. Thank you so much. Bador, are you seeing Batman over there? And if you are, when? Dude, I am so pumped, honestly, for this movie.
Yeah. You can't say that enough.
Right.
Like, was it 2016 or 2017 when Ben Affleck was rumored to have been writing and Matt Reeves was attached to this?
It's right around there. Well, originally Ben Affleck was the director, and
Correct.
then he stepped down as director, but he said he would do anything for Matt Reeves, and it sounded like Matt Reeves was going to be directing Ben, and then Ben stepped out altogether, and we learned later that Matt Reeves wanted to do something separate from the DCEU, and yeah. Oh, Bador says, funny enough, I've watched both at work, and I'm still at work. I will, but still didn't get tickets. Need to see when me and my friends will go see it. Well, I hope you see it soon. I hope you have a great time. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Bador, are you over in Kuwait? I'm trying to remember. I don't know what the theater traffic's like there. Maybe it's not so bad. Here, it's pretty busy. Not Spider-Man No Way Home, but pretty busy.
There was, definitely not Spider-Man No Way Home, but I have a feeling this movie, if it gets great reviews, will have long legs.
I agree.
And run a little bit further than other people. But yeah, the build up for this, we've been waiting and waiting and waiting. Originally Ben Affleck, then he steps out, Matt Reeves comes in, and then I think Matt Reeves wanted to go with a younger Batman, and that might have been what prompted Affleck to step away, knowing that if we got an Affleck standalone at his age, it'd be a one-off.
Probably.
Whereas with Pattinson, we can lay the groundwork for at least a trilogy.
Yeah, and Pattinson's a whopping decade younger than Ben.
Yeah. So he's 35 instead of 45.
Yeah, and we got the Dark Knight trilogy is a 7-year time span. So we can get an easy 3 movies in under 10 years.
I love that this is also what, year 5 for Batman is what this is placed in?
Like the Batman?
Yeah, the Batman is
year
like
2.
Year two. Okay, year 2. So he's still young. Fairly new to this. But boy, does it look good. Man, the intensity level, it's like they took all the best parts of all the other Batman movies and rolled it into one. And it's got me kind of jacked up to see this because the physicality, the suit looking like it's right out of the Arkham series, the tone being so dark with lots of red hues, like it feels ominous. And I think it was already tagged as being an artisan film as well.
Yeah, that was wild. AMC artisan film, and I was like, that's nuts.
This feels like the first time Warner has attempted to do something and not perhaps kept their hands off.
Well, I think they're pretty hands off for Joker, maybe, but I think for a lot of their big tentpole stuff, they have been overly involved. And Matt Reeves came out recently, and he said, they honestly supported me in everything I wanted to do up front. They said our mandate is, because it's Batman and we're putting a lot of like money into this, a lot kind of, because it's like, it's not a $200+ million movie. It's about 100. It's about half the cost of most Marvel movies. Still, it's a big investment. They said our only mandate is that you keep it PG-13.
Yes.
Outside of that, please do what you want. And he said he had like no restrictions. And he said he went into this already planning on making a PG-13 movie. And he brought up his Apes movies. He's like, I like to ride the boundary of ratings.
I have a feeling this will push the border very close. Very close.
Well, a couple things on that. I'm hearing some people that have seen it and they're like, I'm surprised this isn't R. It didn't get that R rating. But America's a lot less sensitive to violence, and I think that might be one of the main things. Because what's interesting is you go over to UK and I guess Ireland, is this movie is getting the equivalent to an R in other countries. And in the UK, I believe they have like a 15 rating. Maybe Maddie can educate me on this a little bit. And that is not, oh, if you're 15, you can see it with a parent. It's if you are under 15, under no circumstances are you allowed to see this movie. And the theaters are trying to change that because obviously that's going to take a cut of profit for them because of, a lot of kids want to see this. And I think at, how old was I when I saw The Dark Knight? 2008. I was 15, so I was right there when that movie came out. Scott's like,
2008. I was 27. Hold on, I got to go put some ointment on my back. It hurts really bad. But I think this has the potential to be the best thing we've seen. I mean, so my favorite standalone sequence scene in any Batman movie is in Batman v Superman.
It's got to be
it's the warehouse. It's the warehouse scene. It's absolutely incredible as far as highlighting the physicality and the fighting of Batman.
And there's
I will debate anybody, any day, anywhere that is the best single live action Batman scene. Period.
I don't think it's close.
Oh no, I can't even think of anything that comes really right near it. The stuff with Christopher Nolan is far too artistic in the fighting, and it lacks the brutal physicality. Whereas this movie, in just the trailers, you see they've taken that Terminator feel of just walking through bullets, pounding people, getting smashed, and just crushing them. Even getting the shot to the head and then getting up and beating people like Ben did. Some of those things are
the most like
so
rageful
awesome.
Batman.
Oh yes,
And this is
I love the clip where they show the him screaming like pissed, just pounding people on the ground. They have that cut next to Affleck, and they both have that intensity of where he's coming down on somebody, just mashing them.
and I apparently there was an interview with Pattinson that comes out, and I've been loving Pattinson's interview. He's so fascinating. I'll use the word, but he was talking about how originally that scene that we saw in, I think it was the first trailer, where he beats the hell out of that guy. What was scripted was that he knocks the guy to the ground and then says like, "I'm vengeance" or something. And then it was Pattinson's idea. He's like, I think he should take him to the ground and keep going and beat the life out of him. And then like when he stands up, he says, "I'm vengeance," as that guy is fading from consciousness. So it's the last thing he hears before he blacks out. And I was like, my God. I was like, this guy gets it.
Well, that's one of the things I love. Pattinson's not a method actor, right? And he's not living in Bruce Wayne Batman mode all the time. But he is an incredibly gifted actor as far as understanding a character, developing the character. I think this is going to be also a moment where Pattinson sheds this idea that he is Edward Cullen or Cedric Diggory, which is what people will always quote about him when they don't know the deep catalog of his work. He's got so much good stuff. And I think in this movie, he's going to separate himself to now he's an adult action star.
Right.
And not only that, a really talented actor one.
Well, let's go back to about 2007 when they announced Heath Ledger as the Joker. And what did everyone say? The guy from Brokeback Mountain and Knight's Tale? Like,
and
that's
10 Things I Hate About You?
Yeah, that's going to be our Joker. The answer is absolutely he is. And he still is talked about on a daily basis and will go down in history as not just one, like the best Joker, but one of the best comic book performances of all time. I just rewatched Dark Knight about a week ago. And even though I have problems with the Nolan aesthetic in Batman and how he handles certain things, there is not a single frame of flaw in Heath Ledger's performance. It is absolutely incredible.
I love that movie. Its only issue for me is that it's 30 minutes too long. It peaked twice. And at one of the peaks, you're like, okay, wait, we're not even near the end of the movie. And you're like, I gotta buckle in for 40 more minutes of this junk. And it's a good movie. I don't want to knock it. And Heath Ledger's performance is iconic, but it's really long. And now this movie is almost the same length. So the question is, how do they do the pacing, the timing, and everything for this?
30 minutes longer.
I thought this one's 2 hours and 45 or something like that. And I thought
this movie's 2 hours and 55 minutes.
Is that including credits?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, The Dark Knight is 2 hours and 45 or something like that. It's long.
Let's see. Little Google search, because we can do things like that. 2 hours and 32 minutes. So it's about
20 extra minutes.
Yeah.
But Dark Knight feels that length.
Right. And
that's my biggest concern about this one is how do they, if they do the pacing right, and that's where the biggest knock on Nolan for The Dark Knight is that the pacing is really goofy. And then literally it has this pinnacle moment with like him breaking out of jail, the bus flipping, all these crazy things. And then it's like, oh, we're back to nothing. And then we got to restart with the whole boat sequence, which takes forever.
Well,
just my opinion.
I think we can say that we're both very excited for the Batman. I cannot wait to talk about this. I'm not going to be able to sleep at all Tuesday night after watching it. Gonna have like 3 hours of sleep going into work.
I guarantee you the first person I text after walking out of the theater will be you. And I remember the very first thing I text you after Dune was perfection.
Yep.
I have this
2 for 2.
I have this feeling this one might be that next movie that I walk out and I'm like, I can't find anything wrong with it. I'm sure, people will nitpick stuff because you can do that with anything. But I think that my prediction is, as far as a standalone Batman movie, this is going to be right next to 1989's Batman as far as what people will put as far as the rankings. It's going to be in that level because that's still kind of the benchmark movie.
Yeah, I think what I've wanted is, I think Nolan wanted to ground Batman, which is fine. Batman's a more grounded character, but I felt like it went so that way that I lost some of the interest in what makes Batman fun. And 89 was like mixed campy with dark, and it was a lot of fun, and it felt like a comic book. And I feel like the best Batman is somewhere in between Nolan and Burton. And I'm thinking this looks like this. Like, this looks like it's not afraid to be a Batman movie. So there's going to be comic book elements, but it's also going to be gritty, dark, violent, and like all the noir aspects of it feel incredible. So
I know that there's a lot of people who will say Heath Ledger's Joker is the best, but I tell you what, Jack Nicholson, if you watch 89's Batman, Jack Nicholson, I believe, is actually kind of scarier. Like the moment when he's got his face painted and he wipes it off and it's got the streaks of white with the stuff and he's laughing in her face.
Yeah.
Oh my, it scared the crap out of me as a kid. Now, granted, I saw that as a 8-year-old or 9-year-old, and I saw the Heath Ledger as an adult. Huge difference in my perception coming in. But Jack Nicholson's Batman freaked me out. And then when he dies and the thing just keeps playing the music.
That's what I was going to bring up. Yeah.
Dude, the laughter.
So bringing up different incarnations of Batman, let's now spend a moment to talk about who is the best Batman. This is going to be highly, not debated amongst us, I feel like, but definitely debated amongst the community. And if you guys missed the Speakeasy last night, go back and catch it. Those things age very well. But I did want to bring up, we had a poll going throughout, and at the end of the night, these were the results that we came up with. I asked, who is your favorite live-action Batman? Affleck leading at 38%, Bale at 27%, Keaton at 16%. Where is the respect? And other at 16%. And I'm wondering who that other 16% is, because like I would argue Kevin Conroy. But I said live action, so that's why I'm wondering who is this other person. Are you saying somebody likes Val Kilmer or Clooney the most?
No, we did in the weird Flash thing. We did get Kevin Conroy as Batman for about 2 seconds live action, right?
Oh, in the crossover.
Yeah,
yeah.
We can scratch that from memory. In live action theatrical, I am torn based on which one I watched most recently between Affleck, my vote was for Affleck on that. Affleck and Keaton. Bale is good, but he lacks something that Keaton and Affleck bring. Keaton, I think, had a great presence in the way he did it, but physicality wise, Ben owned it. Plus, Ben was the first one where we all agreed after watching it, BVS, that he was the first one to make you think that Batman was the primary, and the mask was the alter ego, the hidden person was Bruce Wayne. He was only Bruce Wayne so that he could be Batman.
Right, and you could see it with the way his smiles would fade the second people walked off screen, and when he was doing research underground, going like fight clubs and stuff to try to get information. And it did feel like Christian Bale, I think, was a man of two Bruce Waynes, but it did feel like the Batman was a tool to get what he was trying to do. Whereas I think with Ben, it feels like Batman is the identity. And we agree, I think, that Ben Affleck is potentially our favorite, but I'm also like you, I am conflicted because I love Keaton's and it was so perfect for when it was. And I go back to it all the time. And I think just a couple months ago, I said Keaton was my favorite. And then like a couple months before that, I said Affleck was my favorite. So those are definitely my top two. And I go back and forth. I wonder how I'll feel after watching the Flash movie, which is going to have both of them in it. And then we'll see Keaton again in the Batgirl movie on HBO. So we know somebody that knows something about something. And he says, it sucks having to keep your mouth shut. I think he may be a fan of this movie. Who knows if he's seen it or not? I can't say. That's not for me to say. But I've heard good things. I'll say that. I've heard really good things about this incarnation. And if you guys see the poll in the chat right now, I'm asking, will Pattinson be the best Batman? I'm going to check on that poll right now. But keep sharing your thoughts, Scott.
I believe Pattinson will be in that conversation. Depending on who you talk to, people love different Batmans for different reasons. But I feel, let me just say about Bale, Batman Begins might be the best Batman. It is the best Batman origin. It's the only one that really gave us a true origin story. And that one is fantastic. That holds up. You can rewatch it over and over and over again. But I still think Keaton and and Affleck bringing the physicality and something that nobody else. He's 6'4", 230 pounds. Michael Keaton's 180 and 5'11". They had to shoot him up angle every time.
I feel like Ben came across like, what does 20 years in Gotham do to a person? Like, a lot of people are like, oh, he's killing people. Oh, he's like too brutal. And I was like, at that point in Bruce Wayne's life, yeah. Like, look at...
he's probably seen politicians release criminals too many times.
Yeah. Look at the Dark Knight Returns storyline and look at Batman Beyond. Bruce got brutal in his old age. What is that line from Alfred in Batman vs Superman? Good men become cruel or something like that. But yeah, I love his approach, but I am all for getting a young, rageful Batman on the other end, because I feel like the best Batman is in the prime of his career where he's starting to get a handle on things. I feel like very early Batman, full of so much rage, doesn't know what to do with, right? And so he's just taking out his vengeance. And then I feel like he comes to terms with what his responsibility as a hero is and makes the leap from vigilante to hero. And then I think as you get later on in life, it kind of goes back to vigilante. So
I think maybe this movie will show the physicality. I don't know what maybe the next movie will be where we see the world's greatest detective, because he does transition. He starts using his brain more than his body. Right. And
I think this is going to be a bit of both. That's why it's so long. And that's why the Riddler is the villain of the movie.
And I love that they picked the Riddler for him to go psychologically against as the first movie.
And the David Fincher vibes and like Seven and Zodiac.
Both fantastic movies. I almost yelled out what's in the box. But I'm just excited for this one because if done properly, it sets us up for a good long run of Robert Pattinson carrying the mantle, where we have several movies to be able to say, okay, we have created a mini universe here that we can build around. And I'm excited for that because, with what Tim Burton did, those first two movies were fantastic. And then when the baton got passed with, what was it? Batman Forever, which I love, but you could certainly tell the tone got a little bit different, a lot more vibrant and bright colors. Two-Face and the Riddler, which, by the way, Tommy Lee Jones, I think, was fine as a Riddler. It's not, or as a Two-Face, it's okay. Nothing on Aaron Eckhart, even though they way underutilized Two-Face. And then Jim Carrey really kind of stole the show a lot in that movie, and Val Kilmer just. As much as I love him as an actor, he was not a great Batman. He's lucky and fortunate that George Clooney came behind him to take the mantle as worst.
That's true.
And I don't think anybody debates that George Clooney is clearly the worst Batman.
Even George Clooney.
George Clooney says, I killed a franchise.
Yeah.
And he killed a comic book franchise with the greatest hero ever other than Superman, and literally tanked it. That wasn't all his fault, though.
The hot take I was going to bring up earlier when we're talking about incarnations of the Batman, and you brought up Begins being the best origin story. Batman Begins, I think, is the best of the Nolan trilogy. Mm-hmm. And I know that there's people that agree with me. I don't know if that's the popular opinion. I think most people put The Dark Knight as one of the top 5 comic book movies of all time. Mm-hmm. I think the story in Begins is better. I think it's more interesting. Now, is the performance of the villain better in The Dark Knight? Absolutely. I think that's pretty indisputable. Is the Joker a better villain than Ra's al Ghul and Scarecrow? I think so. I just think that Begins had more to offer that we hadn't seen before than anything else in the franchise, and I think most people agree that Rises is the least preferable of that franchise. I put Bale as he's 3 for me as far as live action goes. It's Ben, Keaton, interchangeable, and then Bale, and I know Bale's a lot of people's favorites, but you guys. I see a lot of people agreeing with us, which is fun because I've had to defend Affleck's Batman so much.
It's hard when it's kind of like defending Henry Cavill's Superman. I don't get how people don't love Henry Cavill as Superman. I don't get how people don't like Ben Affleck as Batman. And it's one of those things where, as you're watching it, I've even sat with people who are like, I don't really like him, and I'm like, what? Explain.
So I think
justify this to me.
there's story elements or things in the movies I can get that people aren't like getting behind, but I think as far as like portrayals go, I don't know. It was so much of what I wanted from the character.
So we have this discussion, same thing with, and we can go off on this all day, but we had the same discussion when we were talking about Spider-Man. There's a difference between the quality of the total movie and the quality of a performance within the movie.
Absolutely.
Individuals can have incredible performances in a movie and the movie still be subpar. And that's something that a lot of people, they try to conflate Heath Ledger with The Dark Knight being great. And they don't go hand in hand. They're not synonymous. Whereas, Christian Bale in Batman Begins is really good. That whole movie is really good, but Heath Ledger's definitely better than Ra's al Ghul. And I love Liam Neeson, but after what is his 17th movie in a row where he's some vigilante coming back to shoot somebody who kidnapped his daughter. I mean, how many times have we seen that storyline? But Heath Ledger was better than the other villains in Batman Begins, but Batman Begins, I feel like, is on par, if not a little better than Dark Knight. And I'll be honest, I'll watch Batman Begins because it's shorter than The Dark Knight, and I don't have to sit for forever to watch it.
Right. I think Begins is more well-rounded too. I think it's got 3 strong acts, and I think The Dark Knight loses itself a little bit in the third act. Ooh, I did spicy comment reaction. Oh, I said I think maybe because people didn't see enough of them in those roles, and maybe general audience members don't have those tools to discern between those two things. I'm not sure I do myself, to be honest. Well, that is a fair look at it. And Bador, hot take: don't like anything in Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, even Joker.
Wow.
Bador, what I'm gonna say is I respect that, because I've had to say that The Dark Knight is not my favorite for a long time, and it has not been received well amongst my friends. And
is it as bad as when you rated Black Panther like the 5th worst movie in the MCU?
Scott, I did not need to be outed here.
Nobody's watched that. Please go back to one of the all-night shows that Jesse did.
And we just lost all the subscribers I made in the last couple of days. But no, so there's been so many movie tournaments and like comic book movie ratings, and every time I see The Dark Knight as number 1, I just let out this long, like 20-second sigh, because it's good. It has highlights. It was really cool when it came out, but like we've had 25 Marvel movies since then, and a lot of them, I think the problem with the Nolan movies is what they weren't able to capture is making me feel anything. Like, it's cool to see Batman imagery and stuff, but like I could not care less about the character of Rachel. And I honestly didn't care about Bruce. It was like I was there for the Batman stuff. And I'm hoping that the Batman with Robert Pattinson is going to be something I can get invested in. I want to care about Bruce. I want to care about Selina. And I feel like this might be the first time I get to do that. Sean says, yeah, I watched Batman Begins and The Dark Knight both yesterday. They're both awesome.
I remember after the warehouse blows up with Rachel in it, thinking that's the best thing in this movie.
Oh no!
Her character. No offense to either one of the actors. Kate,
Maggie Gyllenhaal, and Katie Holmes.
Katie Holmes and Maggie Gyllenhaal, and
yes, I compete in
I'll be honest, Aaron Eckhart's response to her, like when Batman breaks in and he realizes that he found the wrong one, that was the only gut wrencher part of that movie for me. Like, Aaron Eckhart sold that. He was pissed. And then getting burnt as bad as he did, that was kind of a tragic scene. But to know that Rachel was blasted in the other one, like you said, the character did nothing for me in either of those two. So.
All right. Well, we've kind of been talking about this a little bit, but I'm going to slightly shift the category to favorite Bat movie, because ironically, I think favorite Batman and favorite Bat movie is not the same discussion. Because I will with confidence say my favorite Batman movie to revisit and discuss is Batman 89, because I feel like it captures Batman better than any other movie did. And it feels the most like a Batman movie. Gotham is a character, whereas I feel like Gotham in the Nolan trilogy is interchangeable for any like I'm not gonna say poverty, but just like I don't know, Chicago or whatever, or Detroit. It's like it's just a city. It doesn't feel otherworldly. And I think one of the best things about Gotham is it feels like you never know what time it takes place in. It's kind of a timeless city that seems at some points semi-futuristic. At some points, it seems like it could be the 1920s. And it's very unique and it's fantastical in that way. And that is something I'd like to see more of. And I feel like we might be getting it in the Batman. But Scott, what is your favorite Batman movie? I'm going to put this up.
I just want to, you just put it up there. That quote right. Well, I get my finger to point properly there. I have to play the fifth. What's my favorite Batman movie of all? I'm going to say...
I will let you continue, but Bador, animated movies absolutely count. I want to talk about animated movies because I have some favorites there. We will discuss those, but please let us know in the chat.
If I'm going live action, it's hard because it's Batman v Superman Ultimate Edition. They corrected so much of the story with the Ultimate Edition, and being that Ben Affleck is equal to Keaton as far as my favorite, and I lean more towards Affleck because of the physicality of it. But that movie's really, really good. I often wonder how different the DCEU would have been if we had gotten that version first and people not been soured on the messy story, because so much of it is corrected as far as holes in the story, plot holes, and so I feel like BVS Ultimate Edition, you have to be careful to add Ultimate Edition. It's kind of like Zack Snyder's Justice League versus the other one that was released by Warner Brothers. BVS Ultimate Edition, I think really we got to see Batman with the mech suit going against and using vaporized kryptonite against Superman. We got to see him using his brain plus his brawn quite a bit in that movie, and I love it. And the Martha scene, if you could lift that out, but that's the only cringy part. The rest of the movie is so freaking good, and they relined stuff in the Ultimate Edition and changed the sequence in the movie, which made it play so much more effectively.
They also, I think, they made Bruce come across as less dumb, more of a detective. And a lot of the stuff they did with Lex was a lot more enticing and interesting. To play devil's advocate a little bit, I will say something similar that I said with Dark Knight. I think the ultimate cut of BVS has two strong acts, and again, a not great third act. I think they're trying to do too much in the third act, and most of it doesn't work. Whether it be Justice League setup, Doomsday.
Doomsday was a disappointment, I'll be honest.
Yeah. But however, I think the Batman stuff is so good. I think you're right. If you took the Batman stuff out as like a Batman movie, I agree that it could possibly be like the best Batman movie.
Yes, and I think that's one of the things I struggle with. If it's not BVS Ultimate Edition, and that's because of Batman and the coolness you get to see, I have to go with you all the way back to '89. Of course, that was the first one I'd seen. You know what? Let's go 1966. It's really the pinnacle Batman. Adam West, purple suit. It's fantastic. All joking aside, 89 or Batman Begins. 89, Batman Begins, and then you jump all the way to BVS. But again, that's kind of the beginnings of getting introduced to these characters in all three of them. But I'm still going to stick with BVS.
Maybe come Thursday next week, we can all come together and agree on what our favorite Batman movie is. Wouldn't that be something special for the community? Wouldn't it be so nice to be unified on something?
You know what? I think my prediction is that this will not only be my favorite Batman movie across the board, this will be my favorite Batman, as in the character of Batman and Bruce Wayne, maybe.
No matter what it is about like you brought up the comparison to Spider-Man, I've always felt like every incarnation of this character gets parts right, and I always feel something lacking. Even in Ben, there's stuff I'm just like, I wish there was more of X.
Because
go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You were saying something.
Well, And I felt that with Spider-Man too. Like there's always like this, like Andrew Garfield has some element that Tom doesn't have. Tom has some stuff that Toby doesn't have, and vice versa. And I feel like that with Batman. I'm still waiting for that quintessential, like this feels like Batman. And I'm hearing from folks, whether online or people I may know, that this feels like an extended live action cut of the animated series, which to most people is the quintessential Batman. Kevin Conroy's 90s animated show is Batman.
If we're adding animated in, Kevin Conroy is easily the best, but his catalog of work. But of course, he didn't have to do the physical stunts. Like his voice acting, though, man, he brings the life, and not just in the cartoons, but in the video games.
And then Mark Hamill in the same discussion. Like we can talk who the best Joker is all day until you include animated, and then conversation's over. I think.
Yes.
Personally, for me,
I'm not going to argue you on that because both of those would easily. Mask of the Phantasm is good, but for me, it's Under the Red Hood.
I was
Under the Red Hood.
For me too, not to be super basic, but Jensen Ackles as Jason Todd. We had Allison Salamoni on last night asking us who Jason Todd is, so we did a quick little recap on the story of Red Hood, and I actually own Volume 1 and 2 of the Red Hood story comic.
So good.
Really good animated movie. One of the times the adaptation I think is better than the source material. Having read the comics, I think they're a little overstuffed.
So you were talking about the two different types of characters. It's almost a split personality, which maybe we need to get James McAvoy in to be Batman, seeing that he can pull off multiple personalities in one movie. But we either get a really good Bruce Wayne or a really good Batman. Affleck, I think, was the best blend of both. And we had, like you said, with Spider-Man, we got either the better Spider-Man or we got the better Peter Parker.
Batman's kind of been the same way.
Very much so. Like to pull off both sides of that character. But it also goes, that's not just on the actors, though. That's on the directors, the writers. How much are they portraying? How much time are we getting? I love that in Nolan's, we see that Batman, after fighting crime all night, is sitting in a board meeting asleep.
Yeah,
like except for that, I don't think the real Bruce Wayne would do that. I mean, at least in my mind, I feel like Bruce Wayne owns the room everywhere he's at.
I do feel like the Pattinson Batman is something we're gonna have to grow into, as far as with the Bruce, because it's only year 2. I think we think of Batman as like him discovering who Batman is and how to be Batman. I think this movie's really gonna feel like how to be Bruce Wayne. Because I've seen some of the clips that have released. You have Alfred talking to Bruce, and he says, like, I invited over some Wayne accountants. What is it? Financial friends. I forgot what the name of it was. And then Bruce says, why? Why are they here? And he's like, because you won't go there. This is important. If you keep this up, you're not going to have anything left. And so I don't think this is a Bruce that understands what it means to be a Wayne. He just knows what it means to be Batman. So he might not be our favorite Bruce Wayne off the bat. Pun intended. But I think we could get there. But I think it's an important part of Bruce Wayne's life. So he still could be, potentially.
Now, one last thing here before we transition to another one of our questions. I feel like we've gotten better with with Alfred. Michael Caine, I really liked as Alfred. I really like Jeremy Irons. The fact that he steps in and is controlling the Batwing remotely, pretty sick. But I'm looking very much forward to Andy Serkis. Andy Serkis is such a good actor and so underrated. I'm excited to see how he portrays Alfred Pennyworth in this movie, because it can be he's not just kind of an adopted parent to Bruce. He really is the father figure. When Bruce loses his parents, Alfred steps up and becomes the dad, but then also recognizes, hey, I still work for this guy, but he's trying to balance the offering suggestions, offering care, guiding him and nurturing him, but then also giving space. And I'm really curious to see how Matt Reeves will use Andy Serkis to portray that role, because it's pivotal in the life of Batman that Alfred is deeply ingrained in everything he's doing, including being Batman.
Agreed. Okay, so let's move on to the final one, which sounds like maybe Bedore will have some fun with. we're going to talk about the best Batman comic in our experience or animated series and film. So kind of the all the extra things. And maybe, I would say video games, but I think everyone's in agreement that the Arkham series is the quintessential Batman video game. So like, I don't feel like there's much discussion to be had there. If you want to put in your 2 cents, feel free to do so. I grabbed a comic right here. Sean, do you have a favorite comic, Batman comic? Is there anything that you've read that really sticks out?
Are you talking to me? You said Sean.
Yeah, yes. Did I say Sean?
Yeah,
Sorry,
you were talking to him. I was like, well, Sean had just texted just a second ago, but I just want to. I'll say this: as far as the comics, I'll be honest. I really enjoyed Injustice and how they treated Batman. So good. The breaking of his back, all the issues he has, rebuilding himself up, trying to fight from behind the scenes against Superman. Injustice is probably my favorite, at least the first 2 years. That's as far as I went with it. But the first 2 years of Injustice and the way they used Alfred, Batman, the whole how he gets pulled into the Phantom, or not the Phantom Zone, but he gets taken into the space with Dr. Fate so he can heal and hidden. Like, there's so much that's good about Injustice. But I'll say that as far as a comic series.
I will say that this comment right here, Sean Wingblade will no longer be joining the show. I want to comment on John Barr's. I've heard a lot about the Batman White Knight. It's a newer comic the last few years. I haven't read it yet, but it's a super fascinating alternate look at the Batman/Joker dynamic. I would love to hear more about it. If you have some facts or things you'd like to share, heard good things. But I actually have. Oh, go ahead. Sir.
I will say I didn't read the full series, but there is a series in Green Lantern where Batman gets the Green Lantern ring.
Yes.
One of my favorite stretches. Like, such a cool premise. Almost like Injustice when Superman gets the Ring of Fear. When Batman has the Ring of Hope and has the Lantern power.
Will.
Will.
Yeah. And who has more will than Batman? Batman is one of the most willful individuals on the planet.
Absolutely.
So I definitely have animated series and films, but I'm going to roll this into probably also my recommendation for the week. A little bit of a white bread choice. Nothing that's going to surprise anybody. But I already talked about Batman Earth 1, which is over here, which is probably some of my favorite Batman comics ever. Injustice is really good. It's great for all characters except Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is written very poorly in Injustice. Everyone else is great.
Yes.
People might know this. Comment right here. Batman Hush recently made into an animated adaptation, except for that was to more so fit the New 52 universe. This, let me just read the synopsis back here. Gotham City's infected by a crime epidemic, and all of Batman's enemies have emerged to throw his life into utter chaos, but little do they know that they're all pawns of the villainous Hush. In his elaborate game of revenge against Bruce Wayne, pushed past his breaking point, Batman will need to use more than the world's greatest detective skills to uncover the true identity of this mysterious mastermind before it's too late. Talk about a comic that is full of twists and turns, and as long as you haven't had this spoiled for you, you keep thinking you know what's going on, and you don't. This has, we talked about Batman vs. Superman. This is one of the most iconic Batman and Superman fights when Superman's under the influence of Poison Ivy. And one of my favorite lines of inner dialogue of Batman, where he discusses while he's fighting Superman, he says, he should be able to kill me and beat me, but he won't because deep down, Clark is a good man and I'm not. And that's one of my favorite things. So Batman Hush, read the comic. It's a one-off, so it's just boom, that's it. And then watch the animated movie. Oh,
that's pretty dang good.
Batman TMNT. I have watched the animated movie. It's fine, and I've read the comic. Also fine. Fun concept. Not my favorite, but I think it's a really fun concept.
I can't argue with that suggestion. That's fantastic. As far as animated series or film, I'm still going to stick with Under the Red Hood. Mask of the Phantasm is pretty good. But I think it's on. It's Justice League where there's chaos on Infinite Earth. There's chaos,
Crisis
on Infinite Earth.
Yes.
Where he has to battle the owl, his alter ego, and the way he wins that is pretty sick. And while it's a Justice League movie, Batman is the linchpin for the team, and so well done.
You bring up a really good point. I think my favorite animated things with Batman are often when he's not in his own element.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, a lot of people will reference the 90s Batman show, but for me, my favorite Batman series stuff is probably Justice League, because I love watching the difference between how he handles situations versus the rest of the league. And some of the most interesting things done with Batman is in that series. Movies that people don't talk about enough, Batman Superman Apocalypse. The story of Kar-Zor-El coming to Earth for the first time and then being taken and brainwashed by Darkseid. I won't, talk about the entirety of the movie, but there's a scene where Batman in his silly little jetpack and armor goes to Apocalypse and he threatens Darkseid because Darkseid has all these things I think called hell spores that he uses to like wipe out other planets, and they have detonation codes. And Batman says, basically, release Kara-Zor-El, Supergirl, or I will unleash all the hell spores on your planet and destroy Apocalypse. And Darkseid's like, ha, you're bluffing. Batman then proceeds to recite the codes to the hell spores to Darkseid. And he's like, you dare? And I was like, Darkseid could kill you with a pinky. And you're sitting there like...
Well, and the great thing is, Darkseid, because he's the only one crazy enough to do it, Darkseid lets that fly and is like, okay, like, well played. All right, you can go. That kind of is the dramatic, similar type of move with Crisis on Infinite Earths. It's the same thing where Batman is willing to do the thing that everyone else can't do or won't do. And that's Batman in those group settings is the one who always pushes the boundaries of like, oh, this is unethical. And he's like, yeah, but it will help our cause. So why don't we do that?
That's one of the things I bring up when people like to get a big tissy. And I like that Batman doesn't want to kill and does everything he can to not kill. But when people say anytime he does that it ruins the character and it's inaccurate, I'm like, he was about to blow up a planet in a movie that people consider to be very in line with the character of what is this? Block. We got some weirdness going on in the chat. Get out of here. If it's not about Batman, we don't want it. So...
Hey, we're making the big time. We're getting hacked. Perfect.
That's right. Getting some bots in here.
The fact that people still get upset about Batman killing people, go to any of the movies. His death toll is massive. Only Luke Skywalker has killed more people than Batman. And but Batman is willing to do the things that are maybe just outside of the realm of ethical, and in order to accomplish his task. And the other people are trying to always seem to delay because they're trying to find the way to do it without that.
I think Batman's thing is that he wants to send a message, and he can do that without killing people.
Batman is waiting for you.
I'm sure if you click that link, you might find somebody in latex waiting for you.
Well, and I think the other thing that's underrated is Batman understands from the villain exactly what will be their breaking point. Yeah. Like psychologically, Batman gets people. And so he knows that their weakness too. So when he goes after Darkseid, he understands. He also understands the arrogance of Owl and how that's going to work out. He really does have kind of a grasp on people and how they respond.
Owls, like, how can we not bring up the Court of Owls storyline or the animated movie based off that, which I think was Batman versus Robin with Damian Wayne. There's a lot of good. I think there's honestly more good animated Batman movies than there are in live action. And I think that's the hard truth that people maybe don't want to face. Batman Assault on Arkham is almost not really a Batman movie, but it's a great movie with Batman in it. It's more of a Suicide Squad movie, better than probably both Suicide Squad movies.
Can I just say, if you take the Arkham series and you just lace all of the live action or the what is it? The scenes, the cutscenes. If you play all the cutscenes together into like a movie, it's freaking phenomenal. Like, you could just sit and watch. I've done that for Injustice. I've done that for the Arkham series. So good. The way the stories are crafted I could watch those all day long. And if you were to splice those into an actual individual film, top shelf.
Any other animated series, films, comics, things that stand out?
Just the original Batman, the Batman series. I really like Batman Beyond. I was caught into that one for a couple years.
Return of the Joker a couple nights ago. The movie that came out for Batman Beyond with some really twisted stuff with Tim Drake. Man, that movie it's something.
Can I just say, I was actually, this is a weird thing, not to take it on the poo-poo level, but I was underwhelmed by The Killing Joke.
Yeah, for how good of a comic that is. The animation is beyond subpar, and the whole first 30 minutes are not only unnecessary, but borderline offensive. So
it was weak sauce.
We don't talk about Killing Joke. No. That's my new thing.
Nice vocals.
Thanks, man. That's what I'm here for. That's what everyone's here for, is to hear Jesse do different renditions.
They tuned in.
Talk about Bruno. I will advise, as far as recommendations go. Let's get into our weekly recommendations. Do I have a banner set up for that, Net?
And yes, Brian, everyone was underwhelmed by The Killing Joke. I don't think I read any positive reviews about that. Oh, Flashpoint was good.
Flashpoint is good, and that's also kind of a Batman movie with Thomas Wayne. All right, so weekly recommendations. My first recommendation is everybody who is willing to, if you're not into it, that's fine, listen to the Batman score. I like listening to the scores beforehand, like I did with Dune. I listened to it like 10 times because I feel like I hear the music better in the movie. I think a lot of times the music, if I'm hearing it for the first time I watch the movie, I'm so much of paying attention to the visuals that it kind of fades into the background. But if I've heard it before, it transcends and it steps out to me. And I feel like that helps me with my theatrical experience. But everyone experiences movies differently. So if you don't want to listen to it, don't. But if you do, it's there for you. It's fantastic. I already recommended Hush. Everyone go read Hush and watch the movie. Scott, what are your recommendations for the week?
Lord of the Rings, because I recommend that every week. Your Bible, because that's always helpful. I'm actually trying to rehash all the Batman movies, just kind of get myself back in the Batman mindset, knowing that now I'm 4 days. Jesse, you're 3 days from go time. But then also, as far as podcasts, I discovered a friend recommended a new podcast to me, and it's called Bear Grease. Is put on by the Meat Eater podcast. It's about hunting and outdoorsmanship, but it's also a documentary style historical podcast, and it's just a lot of fun. They have a series on there about Daniel Boone and the legend of Daniel Boone, and I really thoroughly enjoyed that. So sometimes it's good to listen to podcasts that are outside of your normal listening range, just to grow, because we should all be attempting to grow more, because I could talk movies all day long. So outdoorsy stuff to remind me that my life is beyond my television and the theater.
All right, Matt, I'll let you get your plug in here. Matt Thomas says my weekly recommendation: watch Who Are They? Real Entertainment's review of Batman Monday at noon. And I will say, after you watch that, keep an eye out for Tuesday night / Wednesday morning, where we drop 2 videos with our non-spoiler thoughts on the Batman, and then Thursday night, a full spoiler review with your boys, Scott, Sean, and myself.
Now, Bedora's recommendation would make sense if you lived in Oklahoma, where owning large hats is legal. But, there is that new series coming out about
Tiger King.
Oh, yeah, Tiger King, like the real life behind the scenes story of Tiger King. Because, people need more of that in their life.
Jeff says also, yeah, Hush is awesome. I haven't watched the movie, but the graphic novel is great. And The Long Halloween, Dark Victory, Catwoman. I haven't read Dark Victory yet, but I read Long Halloween last year for the first time. Or maybe it's 2 years ago. It was probably around the time that the first trailer for the Batman came out. Yeah.
Now, real quick,
yes.
There was a question earlier that we were deep in another conversation we bypassed, and this sparked my memory. Somebody asked or said they were curious to see how they are going to handle Catwoman, Selena Kyle, Zoe Kravitz taking on that role. I'm really excited for how they do this. The relationship dynamic between those two looks really good in the trailers. The Bat and the Cat trailer is sick.
Yes. One of our highest viewed videos was my trailer reaction for the Bat and the Cat. I do want to bring up, since I have Hush, Jeff Loeb, fantastic writer. Jim Lee, probably my favorite DC artist, or definitely Batman artist. Let me find a panel right here somewhere. I love the way he draws. There we go. With the shadows, and that's Jim Lee's art right there. I actually have. Can we see it here? This little Superman statue right here is a black and white Jim Lee art inspired pop figure of Superman. Big Jim Lee fan. Big Jim Lee fan. Hey, Abilene, how's it going? So yeah. Anyways.
So yes, Selena Kyle. I'm the commented earlier. I just want to get this in there. I think this might be the best portrayal of Catwoman we're going to get in the movies live action.
Well, there's only
Michelle
one
Pfeiffer did.
That's
Michelle Pfeiffer's
competition.
Yeah. The other, one we don't. If you want to talk about, we don't talk about Bruno. We don't talk about Catwoman with Halle Berry.
We don't talk about Halle. No.
And Bedore, you are correct. Jesse is a nerd, certified.
I have.
That's
my nerd
actually
card
vouched for
in my
by his
wallet.
wife, all his friends, anyone that knows him, his coworkers, his parents, his future children.
Yep. I would like to reiterate the fact that our walk song at our wedding was, do you remember, Scott?
Jurassic Park.
It was an instrumental of, I guess Jurassic Park theme is an instrumental, but it was the piano version of John Williams' Jurassic Park
It
score.
was beautifully done, though.
Oh, I cry every time. Every time.
I'm really glad I recorded that audio in my back pocket as a secret surprise, because I've listened to that and I'm like, man, that really, and I'm glad that the Jurassic Park music picked up on that. It's so nice.
Thank you. But all right, so lastly here, we've done our recommendations. Again, thank you everyone for joining us here, but we do want to plug one of our other shows, and that is Behavior Geekology. Oops, sorry, get this out of here. Behavior Geekology, brought to you by Allison Salamoni. If you want all the details on that, you can follow Allison at Allison Salamoni on Twitter, and also check us out on Instagram at the Flick and Reel Fancast. Here's all the places you can listen to it: Anchor, Spotify, Pocket Cast, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Radio Public, Google Podcast. Pretty much anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can listen to Behavior Geekology. There's currently 2 episodes up, with a 3rd one on the way. The most recent one with Shane Spiker, I believe, and that was a fantastic episode where they talked about Lord of the Rings and how much Allison can't stand the extended cuts. So go.
I have so many comments for that.
So many comments. So go check that out, guys, please, and thank you. That it's actually performing very well on the channel. We would just love to have more followers on there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like we said, we have a bunch of Batman content coming up, and of course, at the end of March, we will start doing reviews for Moon Knight. It's right around the corner.
And in September, Rings of Power.
September
Allison.
Rings of Power. Allison is not allowed on that show. She can come in the chat and we can block her. And then also in May, of course, Multiverse of Madness and all that good stuff.
This year's loaded, man. We got a lot of stuff to talk about.
It's loaded. All right, guys.
And it all begins with Batman.
Batman
within days.
Within days. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, I almost went back to May the Film Be With You. That was the last channel I did, but actually keep it real. And May the Film Be With You. All that good stuff. Watch some Batman, read some Batman, and we'll talk to you next time.
This is the sound of dun, 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 dun. It's the Flick and Reel Show.